Once again, it's a very good morning to everybody. Our reading was supposed to have been taken from Genesis chapter 3, where we were going to read that in passing. In fact, that's going to be our anchor verse. We have used it, I think, for the third time now as our anchor verse, because that's where we are actually starting from, where we are actually coming from. But we are actually going to have many longer readings than that. So maybe just to refresh our minds, let's read Genesis chapter 3, verse 15. Then we are going to move on to the New Testament. Genesis chapter 3, verse 15, God was speaking and he was giving his instructions or his punishment, so to speak, to the serpents. And he actually says in verse 15, I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and her offspring. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. I think there could be some versions that actually say, he shall bruise your head, and he shall crush your head, and you shall bruise his head. I mean his heel, sorry. We will make reference to that a little bit later, but for now, we are going to jump and go to the New Testament, to the passage that I will tell you just now. But just as a reminder of what we have just been doing in this past 3 times that I was having an opportunity to speak to you. What we were actually trying to do was to follow through the statements that are up on the board. Someone is coming, we have already done that. I think we have seen that. We had passages like, I think after reading that, we also went on to some passages that were actually talking about someone who was actually going to come. And of course, we also read passages like Isaiah chapter 7, reading from about verse 10, but particularly verse 14. It's so specific that this person that was coming was actually going to be given the name Emmanuel. That is exactly what Isaiah actually says. But Isaiah also had support from other prophets, some that were during his time and some that actually came after his time. Jeremiah, one of the last prophets before Judah was taken into captivity, he also came along. And in chapter 23, he actually also talked about what Isaiah, or tried to add on to the information that Isaiah had provided. Isaiah, of course, provided that information in chapter 7. In chapter 9 of the book of Isaiah, also, Isaiah went on to tell us that this man was also coming. He was going to be called the Wonderful Counselor. I think he goes on to say he was also going to be called the Almighty God, the Everlasting Father, and he actually talked about him as the Prince of Peace. But when we move on from there and we come to Jeremiah chapter 23, chapter 23 of the book of Jeremiah talks about someone who was coming, and he was actually going to be called a branch. But incidentally in chapter 33 again, he talks about the throne of David that was not going to lack someone who was going to be sitting on it. We also move on to other prophets like Zechariah, who also talked about it, and he also mentioned him as a branch that was coming. And of course, we have Malachi, who became the last prophet, who also talked about someone who was coming, talking about John the Baptist, who was actually coming to prepare the way for the Lord. And he was also talking about someone who was coming into the future. We have looked at that. And we also have looked at the second statement, someone came, because this someone that was being talked about as coming, he actually came, as we saw last time, that the book of Matthew and the book of Luke helped us actually look at this statement. Chapter 1 and chapter 2 of the book of Matthew, they actually talk about the birth of Jesus. In fact, Matthew added some more information when he actually told us about how Joseph and Mary had to flee from Bethlehem right down to Egypt, because this son that had been born, the king of the time called Herod, wanted to kill him. But also Matthew told us about the visit of a certain group of people that was called the Magi, or the wise men that were actually coming from the east. Wherever they were coming from, the Bible doesn't tell us, but they were coming, what number they were, again, the Bible is silent about that. Although there is a lot of wrong teaching that there were 3, simply because they gave 3 gifts. The Bible doesn't tell us how many they, so we don't want to stick our neck out for that. So we looked at that, and we also went to the book of Luke, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3 even. They actually told us about his birth. In fact, Luke in particular, in chapter 2, was so specific that he actually used both names. Because when the angel Gabriel came to Mary, the angel actually said to Mary, you are going to call his name Jesus. And we actually see that the son that was born by the Virgin Mary is the one who was given the name Jesus. But over and above that, he also was given a title, Christ. So he actually became Jesus Christ. Luke actually provides that information. Luke also provides another information about this one who had come, and he told us about some visitors that also visited him during the night that he was born, and he of course told us about the shepherds that were shepherding their sheep, who also were advised by the angel to come. So he actually came, we have no doubt about that. We actually had a look at some of the things that he did, in particular in Luke chapter 6, we actually saw that he chose some men, 12 of them, that he actually called his apostles from a group, a multitude of his disciples. He actually chose 12 that became his apostles. But elsewhere, Luke also told us about, at least twice, about the age of this young man. At least twice, he told us what he did when he was 8 years, when he was circumcised. He told us about what he did when he was 12 years, when he was missed by his parents, and they actually forgot about him when they had come for a feast. He also then told us in chapter 3 what he did when he was about 30. About 30, he started his ministry, and he actually had just been baptized by John the Baptist. And when he was baptized by John the Baptist, when we move on to Luke chapter 4, incidentally in Matthew chapter 4 as well, we actually see this son who was born by Mary being tempted by the devil. We of course know that temptation which actually came. So we don't have a doubt about his coming. We then saw him picking up the men that became his apostles. We saw him being betrayed by one of them called Judas. We also saw right through the end of the book of Luke where he actually was crucified on the cross. And of course, John tells us how he was buried and who actually buried him. And John tells us that he was buried by a man called Joseph of Arimathea, being helped, of course, by another man that was called Nicodemus. So this is the son, someone that was coming, who actually came as we saw that. So today we actually want to go on to the third statement. Someone is gone, but he will come again. So to help us do that, but in the back of your mind, don't forget Genesis chapter 3, verse 15, because we are going to make some reference, few minutes reference to that. But in the meantime, let us focus on this. Someone is gone, but he will come again. Again, we have been brought back into looking into the future. They were looking into the future, they looked into the present, but now we have been brought into a situation where we are also now looking back into the future. For that, someone who came, who is gone, but he actually is going to come back again. Let's turn our Bibles to the book of Luke, chapter 24, which happens to be the last chapter of the book of Luke. We are going to read a couple of verses from there, and we are going to move on to the book of Acts after that. Then we'll see what we can learn from it. In the book of Luke, if we are going to read the last verses, we want to read from verse 44. This is after Jesus had resurrected. So, after Jesus had resurrected, he actually appeared, as Luke will tell us a little bit later in the book of Acts. He appeared for over 40 days as he was appearing to his disciples and different other people. So in one of the occasions, he was speaking to them in verse 44. Then he said, "These are my words that I spoke to you while I was still with you, that everything written about me in the law of Moses and the prophets and the Psalms must be fulfilled." Then he opened their minds to understand the scriptures and said to them, "Thus it is written that the Christ should suffer and on the third day rise from the dead, and that repentance and forgiveness of sins should be proclaimed in his name to all nations, beginning from Jerusalem. You are witnesses of these things, and behold, I am sending the promise of my Father upon you, but stay in the city until you are clothed with power from on high." Then he led them out as far as Bethany, and lifting up his hands, he blessed them. While he blessed them, he parted from them, and he was carried up into heaven. And they worshipped him, and they returned to Jerusalem with great joy. And they were continually in the temple blessing God. Where Luke ends, where this book, the Gospel of Luke ends, is where the book of Acts begins. If you did know that, please take note of that. Where the book of Luke ends, the book of Acts actually picks up from there, and he actually provides us more information that he had not provided to us in the book of Luke. So let's turn with pleasure, please, to the book of Acts and continue with this story that we have just seen here. Let's turn to the book of Acts, and we want to read a couple of verses in chapter 1 so that we can actually have a background of what we are actually reading. Chapter 1 starts by verse 1, which says, "In the first book, O Theophilus." This is Luke, who had written another letter to Luke, another letter that we now know as the book of Luke to this man that was called Theophilus. So he is now writing his second letter to him again, and he says, "In the first book," referring to the book of Luke, "O Theophilus, I have dealt with all that Jesus began to do and teach until the day when he was taken up after he had given commands through the Holy Spirit to the apostles whom he had chosen. To them he presented himself alive after his suffering by many proofs, appearing to them during 40 days and speaking about the kingdom of God. And while staying with them, he ordered them not to depart from Jerusalem, but to wait for the promise of the Father, which he said, 'You heard from me, for John baptized with water, but you will be baptized with the Holy Spirit not many days from now.'" Luke tells us about the commands that Jesus actually gave to his apostles, and of course we know one of the commands was that they were supposed to remain staying in Jerusalem. The other of the commands is what we now know as the Great Commission, which is recorded in Matthew chapter 28, verse 18 in particular, but coming down or even going up as well, 16, 17. Jesus actually said, all authority in heaven and on earth was given to me. Therefore, because of that authority, I am sending you out to go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. It's interesting that Jesus goes on to say, after you have baptized them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, teach them to observe everything that I commanded you, and I will be with you until the end of the earth. That's one of the commands that he actually gave to them. And the other command was, you are supposed to stay in Jerusalem. Don't move out of Jerusalem. Stay there until you are clothed with the Spirit, of course. That was actually going to come from on high. And if we continue in verse 6, we actually discover that he said, so when they had come together, they asked him, Lord, will you at this time restore the kingdom to Israel? They also did not understand the purpose and the mission of Jesus Christ. Even his apostles, after having spent almost 3 years with him, they still misunderstood him. One, because they were looking at a physical kingdom. Jesus, when he was with them, he had told them about a kingdom that was going to come. Jesus was always focusing spiritually. These men, being human just like we are, they were focusing on the human part of everything. So they are asking him now, the Romans are all over us. We are paying taxes to them. Are you going to restore the kingdom back to Israel so that we are going to be self-governing? We are going to be sovereign as we used to be. But then Jesus gave them an answer, and he said in verse 7, he said to them, it is not for you to know times or seasons that the Father is fixed by his own authority, but you will receive power when the Holy Spirit has come upon you, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem, in all Judea and Samaria, and to the end of the earth. I think when we were studying in the morning, I mentioned the fact that when Paul was referred to be a witness to Christ, they were not just witnesses as an eyewitness who saw something happen, but their being witnesses was even much, much more than that. It was even more dangerous, more treacherous at times, because this word witness, which is here, the Greek word for that is matus or matures, something like that, which actually is where our English word martyr comes from. So in this particular case, Jesus is actually saying to them, we are going to be martyrs, we are going to be killed, we are going to be abused, we are going to be incarcerated, all the things are going to happen, but you are still going to remain my witnesses. And that's, you have to start in Jerusalem, but you are also going to move out of Jerusalem, the city. You are going to cover the whole Judea, which is the province in which Jerusalem fell. But after that, you are also going to move out of Judea. You are going to go a little bit to the north, to Samaria. But after having covered Samaria, you are then going to go to all the ends of the world. But you are going to be my witnesses. In the meantime, he was saying to them, go back and tarry in Jerusalem. Verse 9 says, and when he had said these things, as they were looking on, he was lifted up, and a cloud took him out of their sight. I want you to take a deep breath and think about this. Try to create a vision, try to create an imagination. Maybe you need it when lights were off. It's not even going to be dark enough. Maybe try this when you are sleeping tonight, when all the lights are off and it's dark in the room. Try to see this vision. That's being described. And when he had said these things, as they were looking on, he was lifted up, and a cloud took him out of their sight. And while they were gazing into heaven as he went, behold, two men stood by them in white robes, and they said, Men of Galilee, why do you stand looking into heaven? This Jesus, who was taken up from you into heaven, will come in the same way as you saw him go into heaven. Think about this. These men have left Jerusalem. They have accompanied Jesus to the Mount of, what we now call the Mount of Ascension, the Mount of Olives. While they are there with him, they are talking ordinarily as they have always been talking. They are throwing some questions at him because they are expecting him to answer. They have just demanded, or they have just asked and inquired whether their kingdom was going to be restored. But before they even finish their conversation, all of a sudden a cloud is going to come, and this man is actually going to be lifted amongst them, and they are actually going to be watching him from the floor as he's actually being taken up. Probably they were still following him as he's actually going up, and he's in the cloud. But while they are still bewildered and they are trying to figure out what exactly is happening here, two men are actually going to be there dressed in white robes, who were not there to start off with. They are just appearing, and these men are now addressing them, and they are saying to them, but why are you still standing looking into heaven? This Jesus, who was taken up from you into heaven, will come in the same way as you saw him go into heaven. So what is the next thing that you are supposed to do? Go back to Jerusalem as he said, so that you can actually wait for what he said is the promise from his Father. This was the climax of everything. This was the climax of Jesus' life on earth. He was coming, he came, now he is gone. But according to these men here, he actually is going to come back again. But let's talk, before we proceed, let's go back and make reference to Genesis chapter 3, verse 15. On that particular day, God he had already forecast into the future, many years to come into the future. But he was actually talking about someone who was actually going to come. And what was he going to do when he comes? He actually said, you, the serpent, and your offspring is going to have enmity. You, your offspring, and this woman's offspring. But what is going to happen then is your offspring is actually going to bruise the heel of the offspring of the woman. But in the same process, the offspring of a woman is actually going to crush or even to bruise your head. Compare these two things. If you compare a heel and you compare the head, I think the one who actually feels the pinch more than the other is the one who is actually head, or who actually has been touched on the head, than the one who is bruised on the heel, even if the whole foot will be taken out. But you cannot compare somebody whose foot has been taken out with the one whose head has been cracked, because the head actually drives everything. Okay. So what God was actually saying is, what you are going to do to him is minor as compared to what he actually is going to do to him. Does that have relevance in the New Testament? Does that have relevance in what Jesus did? Does Jesus answer that correctly? He did answer that. Think about this. When Jesus has been crucified and he is hanging on the cross, he is dying, he is giving up his spirit when he is on the cross. He is going to die. He died. These guys are looking at him as he has died. Now they can see a body, lifeless body that is on there. That's the body that they are going to take down into the grave. The devil is winning. The devil was crazy at that particular time, because whatever was his plan was exactly being followed according to plan. The devil is winning. But think about the moment when Jesus is actually rising from the dead, and he is actually coming out of this grave, and triumphantly he is actually going to move out. And for at least 40 days he's going to be appearing, talking to his disciples. Who is losing now? The tides have changed. Christ is actually winning. But not only winning temporarily, because Christ actually rose back to life, never to die again. So when God is actually talking about him bruising the heel of the son of woman, or this son that was going to be born by the Virgin Mary. He was actually talking about Satan to some extent, winning his battle together with the Jews against Jesus in his physical being. But they were never going to win the same war in his spiritual being, because Jesus was never going to die forever. In fact, Peter, when he comes to Acts chapter 2, on the day of Pentecost, one of the things that he actually reminded the Jews on the day about was that your ancestor David, our ancestor, our patriarch David, he died. And when he died, he was buried. Even if we want to go now, we will go and see his grave. It's still there. But this Jesus that you crucified, his grave is not there because he is not among the dead. His flesh did not see corruption. He did not rot. He actually came back to life. That was the what they would call in English, the straw that broke the camel's back. Because when Jews heard that, then they inquired, what then? It then dawned on them that they had actually killed someone who was coming, someone who actually came, and they misunderstood him. So they actually killed Jesus, and they inquired, what then should we do? And of course, Peter, together with his other fellows, he actually had an answer to that. The answer to your problem is you need to repent and be baptized in his name so that your sins can be forgiven. And of course, about 3,000 on the day were baptized, and the beginning of his church actually started. What am I talking about? I'm talking about this man that was coming, the man that had been promised that he was going to win a war against the devil, the man who was actually going to crush the head of the devil, even though the devil to some extent was going to bruise his heel, but he was going to crush the head of the devil forever. That's exactly what Paul tries to do when he writes to the Corinthians in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, the whole chapter, he actually dedicates it to talk about resurrection. And this is where our hope is. If after Jesus had been killed on the day of the crucifixion, and he had been buried, and he was actually buried forever, and he had not resurrected, we would be those people that are very pitiful on earth today. In fact, we wouldn't even be what we are today, because we would not have followed Christ. Christ would not have been there. But we actually were able to follow him because Christ defeated death, and he came back to life, he resurrected, and that's exactly where our hope is. When Paul addresses the resurrection issue in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, that's exactly what he's talking about. You need to have hope because Christ died, but he actually rose back to life. You are going to die, but you are never going to die forever. You are going to rise back to life. When he wrote a letter to the First Thessalonians, the letter that we know as 1 Thessalonians today, when he wrote it to the Thessalonians, in chapter 4 of the first letter, he actually also talked about how Jesus is going to come. He actually talked about those that were sleeping in him. He talked about those that shall be living when he comes. But the most important thing that he actually says there is Jesus is actually going to be seen coming down in the clouds. And as he is actually coming, he is going to take those who are sleeping in him first, while those that are still living by that time, living in him, not just living for themselves. Those that are going to be living in him, they are going to be taken, both are going to be joined together, and when they are joined together, they are going to live with him forever. This is where your hope and my hope is. Our hope is in the fact that Jesus Christ did not remain dead. Our hope is in the fact that we are going to resurrect as well. It doesn't matter, we may die today. But also, it also tells us the fact that we are then not immune to things that actually happen around us. If Jesus himself could be mistreated by the people, yet he is the one that had been promised that he was going to come for all these years. What about you and me? If the apostles themselves were mistreated to the extent of even dying, to the extent of even being killed, what about you and me? That should actually throw fire the window. The teaching that we actually find permeating everywhere these days from the denominations, in particular the so-called Pentecostals, where they believe that anyone who believes to be the Son of God should never see trouble. That's not true. We actually see a lot of them seeing trouble in the Bible. We are not in it. But again, it doesn't matter what happens to you or what happens to me, what happens to your life, what happens to your health, what happens to your financial status, what happens to anything that is you. It doesn't matter. The promise that we actually have from the scripture is that we are not going to die. Isn't that glorious? I mean, think about it. I've said this before. I might have said it even here before. Because it's my favorite saying anyway, so I might have said it. Okay. What I want to tell you about is this. Imagine we spend a lot of time in our lives, what we call our time, which unfortunately we gradually give back to God. Time belongs to Him, it doesn't belong to us. We don't have any time, because if I were to produce a calendar now, show it to you, there is no single day that we can actually point to and say, this is my day. So time does not belong to us, it belongs to Him. But it's actually, when we are supposed to give it back to Him, we do that gradually. And we are not happy to give back what belongs to Him. But that's not what I want to say. What I want to say is this. We spend a lot of time in our lives, toiling, doing a lot of other things in our lives, forgetting that we are supposed to serve God. So, what we are actually doing there is, we are actually investing in a shorter life, forgetting a longer life. Someone said, but I've lived for my grandmother, my paternal grandmother, the mother of my father. She is now 97. She has lived very long. She is still there, kicking, walking, on her own, doing this and that, at 97. So she's very old. By world standards, she is old. So someone will say, what do you mean if you are saying we are living a shorter life? What I mean is this. If you go back to the beginning, and we think about Adam. Adam has been dead for over 5,000 years ago. He has been dead. So which life is longer? Adam, the Bible says he lived, let me use Methuselah, because that one I know exactly how many years he lived. He actually lived 969 years, because he actually became the longest man ever to live, according to the Bible. So if he lived for 969 years, and he has been dead for 4,000 years, which life of his was longer? The life that he lived while he was here, or the life that he has been dead? The life that he has lived while he is dead. He has been dead for over 4,000, he only lived for 969 years. But most of the time we actually attend the devil's issue, the devil's idea is actually to turn our focus away, our attention away from Christ. But I want to reiterate the point that the Bible is actually teaching us about this man who was coming. And why was he coming on earth? He was going to be the Prince of Peace. He was going to save us. He was going to be the Savior. Them in the Old Testament knew about a Messiah that was coming, who was going to be a Savior to them. When he came, they did not recognize him. They actually killed him because they thought he was a Tsotsi. He was masquerading as the Son of God when he was not. So many times when Jesus said, I and the Father are one, they picked stones and they wanted to stone him because they didn't believe him. But that very Jesus, whom they killed, is the very Jesus who actually came back to life. And is the very Jesus now who is actually paving way for you and me, for our salvation. We need to focus our attention on him because he is the only real deal in town. Think about anything else that you think is the real deal. It's actually not the real deal. In fact, it's a raw deal. The real deal is Christ. So let's focus our attention on him because this one who was coming came. We saw we are at an advantage ourselves because Jews, some of them did not see his coming. Some who saw his coming had just heard these promises. But we are lucky. We are so advantaged that we are seeing this in the Bible. We are seeing this in the Bible. We are seeing his coming in the Bible. We are seeing his resurrection in the Bible. And of course, we are also seeing what he expects of you and me as we actually walk this journey in our lives. What is my commitment today? And what is your commitment today towards him? The one who had to bear all the pain on the cross. Simply because you had sinned, I had sinned. He was sinless, but he took your sin and he took my sin. I mean, John would not have summed it better when he said in John chapter 3 verse 16, the most popular verse, even if I were to ask one of you, I know I would actually get what it says. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him shall have eternal life. He shall not perish, but will have eternal life. Eternal life is only in him, Christ, and nowhere else. Our attention should be on someone who was coming, someone who came, someone who is gone, but he will come back again in the future. According to Paul in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, when he comes, he actually is going to defeat all the principalities and all the powers and all the enemies. And once he has done that, he then is going to hand over the kingdom back to his Father. And that kingdom then is where you are a citizen, where I should be a citizen. And we are the ones that are going to be handed back to the Father. Because Jesus would have said, I have accomplished my mission. I have done my duty. Am I also going to find myself in the kingdom that is going to be handed over to the Father after I would have also completed what is supposed to be my bit while we are living? Let's think about that. Let's ponder about it as we go forward, try to serve our Lord. Lord willing, in the future, we will probably talk about something more about Jesus. What does he expect us to do? But in the meantime, let's focus our attention on Genesis chapter 3, verse 15. That was completed. We have just given meaning to it. We didn't give meaning to it. The Bible gave meaning. We just interpreted what the Bible is giving about it. But we have also seen that this man actually came, and he is the Lord. He became the source of eternal salvation to whoever believes. The book of Hebrews would actually say that in chapter 5. Thank you very much for your time.